Life has a funny way of circling back, doesn't it? Just when you think you've reached the end of one road, you find yourself standing at the beginning of another, one that somehow feels both new and deeply familiar. My name is Sarah, and I've learned that sometimes the greatest gifts are the ones you thought you'd lost forever, only to have them return in the most unexpected ways. My story isn't one of grand adventures or dramatic triumphs. It's quieter than that, like a gentle stream finding its way through stones and roots. For years, my life followed a predictable course. I married Thomas, a good man, steady and kind. We built a comfortable life together, filled with shared routines and quiet companionship. But over time, the companionship settled into something less vibrant than love, something more akin to two ships sailing side by side, but never truly docking. We weren't unhappy, not in a dramatic way, but the spark, the deep connection that makes a marriage truly shine, just wasn't there. It was a slow, quiet fade, like a photograph left too long in the sun. The decision to divorce was painful, even though it felt inevitable. There were no harsh words, no blame, just a shared sadness for a future that hadn't unfolded as we'd hoped. We parted amicably, with respect for the years we'd shared, but with a quiet acknowledgement that our paths needed to separate. Being alone again in my mid-40s felt strange. A little daunting, a little sad. The house felt too big, the silence too loud. I needed something to fill the quiet spaces, something that felt meaningful. I'd always loved working with people, especially children. My background was in education, and after some searching, I found a part-time position at the local community center, helping out with the after-school program and the daytime activities for younger children. It wasn't a high-flying career, but it was warm, filled with small hands reaching up and bright eyes looking back, and it felt like coming home in a way I hadn't expected. The community center was a bustling hub of activity. Kids of all ages running, playing, learning. My days were filled with reading stories, supervising crafts, mediating small disputes over crayons, and simply being a calm, steady presence in their busy lives. It was tiring work, but it was also incredibly rewarding. The simple joy of a child's laughter, the trust in their eyes was a balm to my bruised heart. One little girl in particular captured my attention. Her name was Emily. She was about 5 with a cascade of light brown curls and eyes the color of warm honey. Emily was quiet, observant, often found sitting a little apart from the boisterous games, sketching intently in a worn notebook. She had a gentle spirit that resonated with me, a quiet depth that felt familiar. I found myself spending extra time with her, sitting beside her while she drew, listening to her soft pronouncements about the world. One afternoon, Emily was showing me her drawings. They were lovely, full of imaginative creatures and colorful landscapes. As we were talking, she fumbled in her backpack for a moment, looking for a specific colored pencil, and a small, well-worn leather wallet tumbled out. It wasn't a child's wallet, it was clearly her father's. She picked it up quickly, a little shyly. "This is Daddy's," she said, holding it out for a second before tucking it back. "It looks like he carries his treasures with him." I smiled. Emily nodded, a small, serious nod. "He does. He has pictures. Pictures of people he loves." She paused, then looked up at me, her honey eyes wide with a sudden recognition that made my breath catch. "You're in one of his pictures." My smile faltered. "Me? Oh, sweetheart, I don't think so. Maybe someone who looks like me?" "No," she insisted, shaking her head. "It's you, I know it is. Your hair is like this." She gestured around her face. "And you have kind eyes, like in the picture." I felt a strange jolt, a flicker of disbelief mixed with curiosity. Why would Emily's father have a picture of me? I didn't know her parents well. Her mother, Maria, usually dropped her off and picked her up, a busy, cheerful woman I exchanged polite pleasantries with. I had never met her father. Maria had mentioned in passing that he traveled for work sometimes. "What does your daddy do, Emily?" I asked, trying to sound casual, my heart giving a little flutter I didn't understand. Emily thought for a moment, her brow furrowed in concentration. He he finds things," she said slowly. "Old things. And stories. Stories about people." "He finds old stories," I prompted, trying to piece together the puzzle. "Yes, She nodded, her eyes brightening as she found the right words. Like a history detective. He looks for people who got lost in the past, maybe? She giggled at her own description. Mommy says he's always digging around in old papers and places. A history detective who looked for people lost in the past, and he had a picture of me? It made no sense. A detective might have a picture of someone they were looking for, but why me? I wasn't lost. Or was I? Lost to whom? My mind raced trying to connect the dots, but they seemed to lead nowhere familiar. I didn't press Emily further. It felt wrong, like I was prying into her father's private life based on a child's potentially mistaken observation. But the image Emily had conjured, a man, a picture of me, a history detective, lodged itself in my mind. Who was he? And why did he have that photo? The days that followed were filled with a quiet unease. I found myself watching the door during pickup times, wondering which face belonged to Emily's father. Sometimes Maria picked her up, sometimes an older woman who seemed to be a grandmother. I still hadn't seen him. The mystery of the photo and the history detective gnawed at me. Was it a picture from long ago? From when I was younger? I hadn't always looked like this. Hadn't always had this quiet, settled life. There had been a time, years and years ago, when I was younger, brighter, when my life had felt full of possibility. That was before Thomas, before the quiet settling, before the slow fade. That was during college when I met Daniel. Daniel. The name itself brought a wave of bittersweet memories. He was everything bright and challenging and exciting. We met in a dusty old library, reaching for the same book. He had the most incredible smile, a shock of dark hair that was always a little too long, and eyes that saw the world with a passionate curiosity. He was studying history, already fascinated by the past, by the stories held within old letters and faded documents. We fell in love quickly, completely, with the fierce, all-consuming passion of youth. It felt like coming home, even then. We spent hours talking, walking, dreaming. Our plans were intertwined, our futures imagined side by side. He understood me in a way no one else ever had. I thought he was my forever, but life intervened. Daniel's family moved across the country unexpectedly, following a job opportunity for his father. It was before the age of easy cell phones and constant contact. Long distance was long. We wrote letters, pouring our hearts out onto paper, but the distance was a physical and emotional strain. University demands, new friends, new routines. The threads connecting us, though strong, began to fray. There was no single dramatic event, no betrayal, just the relentless pressure of time and distance, pulling us apart. We promised to stay in touch, promised to find our way back to each other, but eventually the letters grew less frequent, the calls shorter. The vibrant colors of our love began to fade, like those old photographs. The last letter I received from him was warm, but held a note of finality, an acceptance that our paths had diverged. It broke my heart quietly, thoroughly. I carried that heartache with me for a long time. It shaped the choices I made, the way I approached relationships. I built a life that felt safe, predictable, one where I wouldn't experience that kind of sudden, aching loss again. I married Thomas, seeking comfort and stability after the storm of first love had passed. Our marriage was calm, steady, but it never reached the depths I had glimpsed with Daniel. Now sitting in the community center, years later, the memory of Daniel felt distant, almost like a story about someone else. Could Emily's father, the history detective, with a picture of me, possibly be Daniel? It seemed too wild a coincidence, too much like a plot from a hopeful novel. Daniel wouldn't be here in this town. He was probably married with a family, a history detective. It fit his passion for the past, for finding things. But surely he was a professor somewhere, or working in a museum. A few days later, as I was tidying up the craft room after the afternoon program, I saw a man standing near the pickup area, talking to Emily. My heart leaped. He was tall, with dark, slightly unruly hair, and a kind face. He wasn't young, not anymore, but there was something familiar about his posture, the way he tilted his head when he listened. As he turned slightly, the light caught his profile, and my breath caught in my throat. It couldn't be. Could it? He looked up then, his eyes scanning the room, perhaps looking for Emily's mother. His gaze swept over me, paused, and then snapped back. His eyes widened, his smile faltered, replaced by an expression of pure, stunned disbelief. It was him, Daniel. Older, yes, with lines etched around his eyes and touches of gray at his temples, but undeniably him. The smile that had once captivated me was still there, hidden beneath his shock. He said something to Emily, gently guiding her towards the door, but his eyes never left mine. He looked like he wanted to say something, to call out, but we were across a crowded room, separated by tables and children's artwork. As they reached the door, he paused. Emily waved at me, a cheerful, innocent wave. Daniel gave me a hesitant, searching look, a look that held decades of unspoken questions and shared history. Then they were gone. I stood rooted to the spot, my heart pounding like a drum against my ribs. Daniel, here, after all these years. And Emily, his daughter, the picture in the wallet. It was me. But why? Why did he still have it? And how had he ended up here? His daughter attending the community center where I worked? The next day, I went to work with a knot of anticipation and dread in my stomach. Would he be there? Would he speak to me? Or would we just pretend we hadn't seen each other, letting the silence of the past extend into the present? He was there, waiting by the door when I arrived, looking nervous and uncertain, the way he used to look before a big exam back in college. Emily wasn't with him yet. He was alone. I walked towards him, my legs feeling unsteady. We stopped a few feet apart, just looking at each other, the air thick with unspoken words and shared memories. It felt like a lifetime, and no time at all had passed. "Sarah," he said, his voice husky, laced with disbelief. "Daniel," I managed, my own voice barely a whisper. He took a hesitant step closer. "Is it really you? I saw you yesterday, but I thought I was imagining it." "It's me," I confirmed, a small, shaky smile finding its way to my lips. "What are you doing here? Emily is your daughter?" He nodded. "Yes, Emily is my daughter. And you work here?" "Yes," I said, "for the last couple of years." Another pause filled with the weight of 25 years. "Emily said, she said you were in a picture in my wallet." He reached into his pocket, pulled out the familiar leather wallet Emily had shown me. He opened it, carefully, and there, tucked behind his driver's license, was a faded photograph. It was me, younger, standing under an old oak tree on our college campus, laughing. A picture he must have taken all those years ago. You still have that?" I asked, my voice filled with wonder. He looked at the photo, a soft, melancholic smile touching his lips. "I never threw it away. It was a reminder of a time that meant everything to me." He looked up, meeting my gaze. "Of a person who meant everything to me." My heart ached, a sweet, sharp ache. "Daniel, I never understood why." "Why I stopped writing," he finished, his smile fading. "It was the hardest thing I ever did, Sarah. I was young. I was scared. My family had moved. We had very little. My job wasn't stable yet. Your family, they were doing well. I was terrified I couldn't give you the life you deserved. I thought letting you go was the right thing, the noble thing, so you could find someone who could offer you security." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I remembered so well. "It was foolish, arrogant. I never stopped thinking about you." Tears welled up in my eyes. All those years of quiet sadness, of wondering what went wrong, and it had been his fear, his misguided sense of not being good enough. I married," I told him softly. "Thomas, we were married for 20 years. We divorced a few years ago. It just didn't work out. We grew apart." "I'm divorced too," he said. "Emily's mother, Maria. We divorced about a year ago. Amicable. She's a wonderful mother, but we just weren't right for each other in the long run. My work kept me away a lot. My focus. Maybe it was always a little on the past. he added with a wry smile, hinting at his career as a historian. Searching for lost connections, I suppose? He had been searching for lost connections in his work, while unknowingly holding a picture of the lost connection from his own past. It was a twist of fate that felt both heartbreaking and incredibly, miraculously hopeful. We talked for a long time that day, standing outside the community center as the first children began to arrive. We talked about the years that had passed, the lives we had lived separately, the lessons we had learned. The pain of the past was still there, a quiet undercurrent, but it was overlaid with the profound relief of finding each other again, of understanding what had happened, and of seeing the spark was still there, dormant but not extinguished. Emily arrived then, her face lighting up when she saw her father talking to me. "Daddy, you know Miss Sarah." Daniel knelt down, putting an arm around her. "Yes, sweetie. Miss Sarah and we knew each other a very long time ago. We're old friends." He looked up at me, a question in his eyes. "Could we be friends again? Could we be more?" We started slowly, tentatively. Coffee dates after Emily was in bed, walks in the park, quiet dinners. We shared stories of our divorces, the complexities of raising a child as a single parent for him, the journey of rebuilding a life alone for me. We rediscovered the easy camaraderie, the shared sense of humor, the deep understanding that had drawn us together decades ago. The spark that had faded under the weight of distance and time began to flicker again, warmer and more mature this time, built on shared experience and mutual respect. Meeting Emily properly as Daniel's friend was easy. She already adored me from the community center, and seeing her father smile at me like that seemed to make her happy too. We became a small unit, the three of us. Trips to the library, picnics in the park, helping Emily with her drawings. Daniel's work as a historian, his passion for uncovering the past and connecting people to their roots, felt less like a distraction now and more like a mirror of his own journey back to me. He was finally finding the person who was no longer lost. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. Not exactly. Life is rarely that simple. There were complexities, blending families, navigating the future after unexpected detours. But it was real. It was built on a foundation of shared history, rediscovered love, and the quiet miracle of a little girl who noticed a picture in her father's wallet. One evening, sitting on my sofa, Daniel took my hand. "Sarah," he said, his voice soft, "all those years, I thought I'd lost you forever. I made a mistake, a big one. But somehow we found our way back. It feels like coming home." Tears welled up in my eyes, but this time they were tears of pure, simple happiness. "It does," I whispered, squeezing his hand. "It feels exactly like coming home." We didn't rush things. There was no grand proposal right away. Just a quiet commitment, a deepening love, a blending of two lives that had run parallel for so long. We built a future together, brick by slow brick, day by precious day, with Emily's laughter filling the house that no longer felt too big or too quiet. We had lost each other once, let fear and distance pull us apart, but fate, in its own mysterious way, had given us a chance to prove that some connections are meant to endure, no matter how winding the path may be. And sometimes all it takes is a little girl in an old photograph to find your way back to where you belong.